Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hi, this is Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by Shreya Jain. She is an operations planner at Liberty Hardware, and we met at ASCM in Las Vegas this year. And Shreya is heavily involved in ASCM and APIX as well. She's also involved very heavily in her operation as a planner for the operations sector of her company. But she also is involved with the slotting process too. And when we connected at ASCM, we had discussed my episode on slotting actually, and it was a pretty interesting discussion. So I wanted to bring her on the show and get a little perspective from her on what her job is like for listeners out there that may be interested. She is a younger professional in the industry, such as myself, so I wanted to get some perspective from her there as well, and then of course also talk about her slotting process and how it happens in her operation. So Shreya, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Oh, thank you, Kevin. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. Pretty excited about being on your podcast. I think you're doing a great job. So, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you on. Happy we could reconnect after Las Vegas. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your career and how you got to where you are right now?
So my name is Shreya Jain, and currently working as an operations planner at Liberty Hardware. It's based in our North Carolina. Our headquarters is in Winston-Salem, about an hour and a half from Charlotte. Mm-hmm. And I have my master's degree in engineering management. I got it from UNC Charlotte in 2016. I actually also graduated as a valedictorian of my class, and a very proud and honored moment for me in my life.
Oh, congratulations.
And thank you. And as an operations planner, I work on any procedural changes or anything that helps improve efficiency of operations. I work as a functional technical coordinator between all our internal departments. To give you a little idea about Liberty Hardware, we are in the decorative and functional hardware side of business. So we have a large line of hardware products like drawer pulls and cabinet hardware and wall plates. So small things and bigger things are items like shower doors and mirrors. And we're part of the Masco family, so a larger home improvement sector there. So that's a little bit about what I do as my job. I'm a certified Lean Six Sigma green belt, and I'm currently working on my CLTD APIX certification. I'm studying for it. I'm hoping to have it done by next year.
Yeah, I'm taking my test soon, actually.
Oh, yeah. Good luck.
Thank you. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yes, and then I'll look for tips and strategies on cracking the exam from you. But yeah, there's a lot of studying left for me for sure. Mm-hmm. And a little bit about me is I love to travel. I love visiting new places. I volunteer with the local community here, and I love listening to the radio. Hence, I love this podcast that you're doing. I also volunteer with the local NPR station, and it's a lot of fun to be here.
Okay, great.
That's a little bit about me.
Yeah. I mean, you have a lot of stuff going on, and I think it's really great. And I didn't realize you were valedictorian, but I can see why, because you're incredibly smart, and I can see that you getting that achievement, definitely. So we met at ASCM this year,
Thank you.
like I said before, and so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, what interests you in getting involved with ASCM and Apex, and how do you think other people can benefit from getting involved as well? I think in our industry, Apex is relatively new in the sense of, like you mentioned, the CLTD certification. I think it's only a couple years old. So what can you tell people about, what got you to get involved, and how do you think others can benefit from getting involved as well?
So I joined Apex as a member in 2018, and in 2019 I joined their board of directors. I'm now the VP of Professional Development for the Piedmont Triad chapter.
Okay.
And the reason I got interested in it was purely based out of curiosity, I think. Just trying to learn more about the industry and what kind of roles people in the industry are doing. Like you said, we're both young professionals, and just understanding all the aspects of supply chain, which is huge.
Yeah.
And just learning different, just getting people's insights and learning how they got where they are. And speaking of the conference, actually, so this was also my first time attending the ASCM annual conference, the one in Las Vegas this year. So I went in with zero expectations. I did not know how it would be. I joined two of my colleagues, and they were educating me on what happens. So I signed up for all of those sessions. So I basically went in with an open mind and a really curious and open mind, I would say. And I attended all the sessions. I was there all day. And I think I can confidently say that place, once you attend these sessions, the one thing it does is, one thing it did for me is it reinstated my career in industry choice. Because you hear a lot from industry professionals. They share their stories, their journeys, also challenges that they're having in their industry, and then you can relate with them. Some challenges you have, some you don't, so you kind of leave feeling better about how you're doing certain things, and then some not.
Yeah.
But I think just participating and being part of that community, it helped me understand what kind of scope I have in the future within this industry, and just, the whole networking piece, attending events. I really enjoyed that. I think there's a lot of knowledge that you gain, and a lot of good people to meet there.
Definitely. And we met there. And I will say that, and I told you this before, but you are like a master networker. I think like we met, and then every time I was like walking past some place where there was a gathering of people, like you were in the center, like like talking to just random people the whole time. So you're great at that, I would say. So yeah, I was actually going to ask you, what did you think about the event? So, and I thought the same. I mean, I think that, like you said, it kind of just reiterates, that this career and this industry as a whole, and like you said, supply chain is like reaches so many different facets of a company and a network, and it just kind of reinstates that's just going to continue to grow, especially from our perspective too, from distribution. Distribution keeps growing as well, and there needs to be all that support that goes into distribution as well on the inbound side and the outbound side. So
yeah. If you look at anything that you have in your house, anything that you're going to buy at a store, everything is touched by supply chain.
Definitely.
So it's pretty big when you think of the kind of impact we have in the world.
Yeah.
So I like to take that perspective.
Yeah,
be part of the industry.
Yeah, definitely. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were asking me about the podcast and why'd you start it. And one of the things I had told them is that there's such a perception, I think, of that box getting to the front door for you when you order something online. You don't really realize everything that's gone into doing that. And when you drive past like a distribution center or warehouse, there's just this impression that it's just a concrete building with cardboard boxes inside. But there's so much more to that, and that's one thing, I guess, with the podcast that I'm trying to shed a little more light on, is that there's so many things going on, not only like just originally through the whole process, but all the technology that's now coming in as well. So it's pretty incredible.
Absolutely.
So what does so you're an operations planner, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show too is, like I mentioned before, is that you're a younger professional in the industry, like myself, and I've been connecting with, through Apex actually, I've been connecting with some students through local supply chain clubs at universities and stuff. So I wanted to kind of do a part of this episode for them a little bit, and so I wanted to know, for their perspective, what does a typical day as an operations planner look like for you?
Okay. It looks very busy. And there's a lot of there's a lot of ad hoc activities that happen, I would say. But primarily, some of the responsibilities I have is, so like I mentioned, any improvements or efficiency changes. So we have a continuous improvement team in the building, and I'm one of the many champions for operations.
Okay.
So that involves leading Kaizen events. So we have some discovery events, some Kaizen events on any process changes that we would like. And then basically using problem-solving tools. We have a funnel where any idea that anybody in the building has goes through, and then it's prioritized based on business needs. And so maintaining the funnel is one of the things that I do.
Okay.
Mentoring other green belts. So we always have a batch of green belts that are preparing or working on their projects, so mentoring them. And I think in general, using data analytics towards better problem solving. So those are some things that are the CI champion side of the world that I work on. Apart from that, well, there is the usual employee engagement related activities, daily metrics, tracking of results against goals.
Okay.
So you did say that I work on slotting. So the warehouse slotting strategy has been a big part of my role for the past year.
Okay.
And we bought a slotting software, and we have been making a lot of changes and also gaining a lot of improvements via that. And we'll talk more about it. But so making sure all of that is running without any setbacks. And, my job is to make sure if there's any obstacles along the way while we're working on these projects. I'm working with IT, fixing them, or working with people on the floor. So we do have like a 600,000 square feet distribution facility where I work. So anything from receiving to storage, put away, to picking and sorting and packing, and all the way out to shipping happens within the building. So I work with all of our internal functional areas. All of these departments that I mentioned, I work with them on any issues or reports that they would need, or tracking metrics, like I said. Another thing is operations planner. I function as a technical, I use my technical skills towards also improving the processes. So we use smart sheets. We have a warehouse management system that we use, and the slotting software, like I mentioned, and any reporting tools that are needed. So that piece, and I function as a liaison between different sectors of our business. So talking to sales and planning on what's coming in, and with finance on what are our cost savings, working with any of our third-party logistics customers or outside vendors, or sometimes, talking to the executive team and sharing our progress so far and getting their buy-in on any project that we're working on. So, that pretty much takes up all my time. And,
I can imagine that's a lot.
So,
You're responsible for many, many things.
Yeah, I enjoy the job so much because I work with systems and technology on one side, and on the other side, I'm also able to use my people skills and coordinate between people who are working on the floor and people who are sitting in their offices and, watching all our numbers. So being that liaison between them, it's so I need to learn different languages and speak to them in their language. And it's a lot of fun and challenging at the same time, and that's what keeps me going.
We'll be back after a quick break. You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Definitely. I would say from my perspective, working in distribution center, that's been what I've enjoyed the most as well, is as an operations manager working with the people on the floor, but then also interfacing and working with the people at the office level, like you said, in the corporate corporate world. And it's like you said, it's two different ways to operate, and I think it's important, to get the most out of both sides by effectively communicating with them and making sure that they understand in different ways. And there are different ways to make them understand, right? Because we know that the people in the office don't necessarily understand the physical processes that translate to everything else that's going on, but the people on the floor do. So I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned about how everyone in the building is able to submit any kind of idea to this funnel. How do you, for people listening and, they're curious on how do you make that happen? How is that culture, I guess, built up within the building, and how does that work? And do you see that it's really effective in terms of continuous improvement?
Okay. So I think the first thing is culture. My company has been very big in, one of our core values is to continuously improve, relentlessly work on CI, or some people call it PI. But at the end of the day, it's an idea worth sharing should be shared, and it should be justified. So we do have a system where if you have an idea, and you don't even need to belong to that department to have an idea. You were just walking by in the hallway and you had this idea about this department and something that they could do better to make your life easier. And people have those ideas all the time. So we have a system where they can either write it down or type it out and put it into a little box that we have, which is spread across all the places in the building. And you can actually submit that idea or suggestion that you have. And it is the HR's responsibility to actually make sure that idea reaches the right person or the right department. And the person who gave the idea is justified behind why we're doing it or why we're not doing it. And we sort of ensure that the loop is closed to make sure, and some ideas they just don't pick up, and there's a reason why we're not doing it. But making sure the people who shared the idea are kept in the loop the entire time, and just have them know that they're being heard. I think that's one big thing. So that's one way of capturing ideas from the building. And the other thing is we also maintain departmental funnels. So like I'm in charge of our operations funnel. Actually, operations and planning together share a funnel in our company. And we meet with the senior team on a monthly basis. And we have this running sheet, which is a living document. We have all the ideas put into there, and they're all read. And basically at that point we prioritize. So what is based on our business vision and goals for the year, which are the ideas that need to be prioritized more, and then we assign process owners for them, and then they take it forward from there. But that way every idea is documented, and we make sure people are being feel like they're being heard, and they have a value in making changes.
Definitely.
So that's some of the CI activities.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and I think what you said about even if you don't go through with the suggested change or the idea, it sounds like you guys still, like you said, close the loop, and you still communicate to whoever that person was that had the idea, and I guess let them know why it's not feasible or whatever the case may be, which I think is very important, because a lot of times you be in companies or operations where somebody will have this idea, they say something to somebody, and then nothing ever happens, and they never hear anything again. And I think that does a lot for the way that employee feels about, whether their voice matters or not. And I think that goes a lot to, I'm sure you guys probably have pretty high employee retention based just off hearing that. So I think that's really important, and I'm happy that you could share that with us. So now, as a younger professional in the industry, like we had talked about, we both are. So I was curious as to, what do you think of the current state of logistics and distribution, and where do you think it's heading, and like what's the most exciting part about you? Like, as I had mentioned before, a lot of people still have the perception of distribution just being a building with boxes inside, but there's so much more going on. So from your perspective, what really excites you about it, and what do you think about the current state and what the future is for our industry?
I think the one piece about supply chain is there is no normal. Like, you're always continuously aligning supply chain with all the new changes, be it economic changes or global changes or something that's happening locally in your community, in the area.
Yeah.
So it's very volatile and complex at the same time. And any little change that you make impacts the entire system. Like, it impacts your infrastructure in the building and also how things are delivered to your end customer. So just the fact that it's really complex and there is so many challenges. Like, in the world that we live in right now, consumer demands, we all know, they're driven by speed. Like, speed is big.
Absolutely.
You have to make sure you have the right quality, so your on-time fill rate is meeting your metrics and your service levels are great, but also that you're working at a top speed, right? We want everything the next day, be it something you want, a hardware that you want for a home project that you're working on for this weekend, right? You always want things fast. So I think that piece is always challenging. It's a very fast-paced environment in that sense. And then, you couple that with all the global things that are happening. So we've heard of all the tariff changes that have been made, and that has impacted a lot of companies, including ours.
Definitely.
So, managing the tariffs and the risk assessment and planning piece. And then the other fun side of things is the technology and innovation, right? So what can you automate? What can you not automate? What is value? The kind of cost savings that you can get out of automation. Mm-hmm. So I just think overall there are a variety of opportunities within the industry, within the breadth of supply chain and logistics. So there's a lot that you can do. I mean, from working in operations that I am right now to I don't know where I'll be next. We have your sourcing, and then you have your planning and inventory and warehouse management is one thing, but how it comes, where it comes from, and how it gets delivered the last mile, all of those things, is very exciting. And I think younger professionals are not as aware of it, maybe.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate enough to go through the master's program, and I majored in supply chain and logistics and Lean Six Sigma. I did a dual major, actually. And my interest actually started when I took a course in supply chain and logistics. Okay. And I was fascinated on how my professor taught it and, did some research on it. And that's where it all, I think, started. And I'm as curious as ever since then.
Interesting. Yeah. I think to your point, there's so many different things that touch supply chain, and there's so many, and like we were talking about before, there's so many different steps in the process and it's global. It's really global when you think about where you end up getting that product from as the end user. So many things that go into it. So, like you said, I think some people are unaware, and I hope that through our efforts, through APIX and ASCM and all those different types of things, we can create more awareness and tell them that younger professionals that there really is some exciting things going on. And like I mentioned, I'm involved with some of the supply chain clubs, especially from my alma mater, Rider University, and talking to the kids there, and like they're really like hardcore into supply chain, and it's exciting to see. And I think they're seeing it, and as they see more and more, they get more excited, which I think is a great thing and a great sign for the future of the industry as well. So we talked about, when we met, we talked about the episode about slotting, and you had mentioned that that's one of your responsibilities as the operations planner, and you've been doing it for about a year now. So I wanted to get, I guess, your take on the slotting process and how you go about it, and what you think the overall importance of slotting is for an operation, and how it can help you improve efficiency.
Right. I think if you're working in a distribution facility like I am, and you have many different items or SKUs, then I think it's bare
How many
minimum.
SKUs are you guys dealing with?
Okay, so it's in the 800 to 1,000 range right now.
Okay.
So that's a lot of SKUs, and we have different types of locations within the building. Yeah. So you have your regular pallet locations, which are our reserve storage locations. And then apart from that, we also do a lot of picking. So we cater to our retail customers and also to our end consumers for shipping it directly to your home. So we do both kind of operations and more. But the whole omni-channel approach adds that complexity, basically, to how you ship things and how you pick them. Yeah. So we do have different types of locations set up. So our regular case picking location, you're picking an entire carton, and then you can break down cases or cartons also in other type of locations, and then you have your each picks also. So somebody could be ordering a single cabinet knob along with 2 wall plates, and we have to pick it and ship it together to their home. So we have different types of locations to make that picking process easier. But at the same time, the SKU, the slotting helps determine how you're using your space, right? Yeah. You want to make sure your items are allocated to the right amount of space, and you're making sure your cubic utilization is max.
Definitely.
So making sure you're looking at the SKU activity, how an item is performing in the last 3 months, in the last 6 months, what kind of picking activity has it had? What is the daily volume for these items? How much inventory do you want to hold in each of these locations? And if it's a new item, how is it going to perform and where do you want it? So I think those are some questions that slotting helps narrow that gap and make sure you're being productive and most efficient for your pickers and packers' sake. So I think it's a requirement of, I think it's just a basic requirement that you need to have if you have that many locations and items, and things are changing again in this fast-paced world, right? A SKU that's best performing today may not be the best performing SKU or an A item 3 months later. So we have to constantly keep a watch and make sure things are aligned with that in mind.
Now, you mentioned you guys have you have an omni-channel setup, so there is a lot of variation in that. And you mentioned too that you just started doing the slotting like a year ago, I think you said. So prior to that, was the slotting done as often? Because I think when we had talked, you said you guys are doing a daily reslot. So that's pretty intensive. I'll say the operation I work in, we do like a quarterly reslot, but we have a little bit of a different flow. So what did it take to get to that point? And prior to you starting to do the slotting, was that something that was done as often, or have you built up to that frequency?
So previously we did not have optimized slotting. So that drove a lot of inefficient product placement and the way we picked and fulfilled our customers' orders. So when we brought this in, we were immediately seeing the benefits
Okay.
So some of the things that slotting helps is with reducing travel time, right? That's big. You want to reduce your labor expenses and you want to be as fast as possible. So you want to make sure your orders per hour or cartons per hour are meeting your goals and, going beyond. So having that, it's been over a year since we've been working on slotting in different projects. We had focused on different areas within the building, and we did it one by one because it was just too much to, swallow at the same time. So we're taking little bites, and we've had like 2 phases so far, and we're already seeing like increased productivity by doing that. And when you have the right item in the right location, in the right quantity, you're not replenishing it again and again. Right. There could be certain locations that are very well good if they're replenished once a week, and you don't have to keep going again and again. But if that logic is not set right, if your priorities are not set right within the algorithms in the system, then that kind of creates havoc, and you're doing a lot of extra touches, and it's just redundant work. So basically, it helps bridge that gap and basically improving the way our storage space is utilized. So we also did a lot of creative activities when we did this slotting project. We introduced new types of locations within the building. We played around with different sizes. So, instead of having just 3 different sizes, let's, build something in between also. So when we played with that, it really reaped us good benefits. And that way, we were able to extend the life of our existing infrastructure. We didn't have to, go looking for another building because we became very smart about the way we use our existing locations. So all of that.
Maximize your space utilization.
Right. So those are like some, benefits that we have gained. But you asked about how we're doing daily slotting. Right. So the way we have set it up is, like I said, if an item is A item today, it may not be an A item tomorrow. So it also needs to move out of a big size location to a small size location, right? So if an item was in a pallet location, it right now, it's not doing so well, and we can move it to a floor rack. So that piece is where you're right sizing it, and we have certain storage moves related to that. That's looking at, so the data that the systems talk to each other. So the slotting software talks to our warehouse management system, and also it looks at the forecast of new items when it doesn't have history to look at. Okay. So it's looking at all of that and recommending 2 types of moves. So one side is the storage moves, and the other side is productivity moves. Storage moves is right sizing locations. So it's looking at how much units have been sold per day in the last 3 months or 6 months, however you have it set up. Okay. And then it's coupling that with how much time supply is needed. So you can say that a pallet location can be replenished once in 3 days and a floor rack once in 5 days. So you have those parameters set in place, and that's how the storage moves work. The productivity moves are directly impacting your travel time. So how many times is the picker walking to that location in a day? So it's looking at the number of visits, right? So apart from looking at the SKU performance, we are also seeing how many times are people walking to that location. So we want to reduce that travel time. And that's when A items are... we make sure our A items are in front of the aisles where the pickers start walking, as opposed to being, way at the back in like bay 40 or 60. Yeah. So to give you an idea, we have about 56,000 storage locations. Okay. And then we have about 5,000 of case picking locations where they're picking a full case. And then we have about 10,000 of active pick locations, which was where they're breaking down a case or they're picking like eaches. So the smallest unit is being picked over there. So when you're doing things at that level, really the travel time impacts a lot. When you have 10,000 locations, you really want to optimize it because you're still trying to meet that service level and trying to ship things out within 24 hours. Right. Definitely. So the productivity moves help with the travel time. So these 2 we have set as a logic, and these are generated every day, every morning, and they're transferred into our warehouse management system, WMS system, and they're translated into being tasks. So now the drivers can log into their RF guns or RF scanners, and the tasks are ready for them to do, and they make these moves and make sure the heavy items are not at the bottom or on the top. So we're also looking at golden zoning, making sure everything that the pickers pick and the heavy and oversized ones are within their, to make sure it's ergonomic and safe. They're not, reaching out too high or too low and causing back issues. Yeah. So it's looking at those criteria also. And then it's making sure all the fast moving are in the front, slow moving are at the back. And if they're not moving fast enough, they're outside and we move the slow moving item outside our capital space. Yeah. So we make sure we have space for growth also. So yeah, those are a lot of things that go into the logic. Okay. But once you have it, I think they are generated on a daily basis, and we're making sure things are optimized. So because one thing people do not realize, and you have to have them explain it, is slotting is not a one-time activity. Right. You cannot say that this warehouse is now optimized and your job is done. Let's move on. Slotting is a continuous. Everything is changing all the time, and you have new projects coming in, and something else is prioritized over the other. So, and that's the life of people who work in operations, right? And you'll agree with me on this. Yes. Slotting is not a one-time activity. It's an ongoing activity, and that's why daily tasks play a big role in doing that.
Yeah, and I think that's important too to realize, because, like you said, it's not a one-time activity and then you're done. Because I think a lot of times some people get caught up in like, I got to get the orders out. But at the same time, if you're not taking care of the back end and making sure that you're efficient there, like doing these different types of moves that you guys do, oftentimes you're killing yourself maybe for no reason, and you could actually handle more throughput, but you just have to get that efficiency up. So I think it's a really good point that you made, that it's not a one-time activity, definitely. So I wanted to ask you, you mentioned about new items. It's actually something I'm dealing with in my professional life as well right now, is getting some type of more data behind new items so that we can get them slotted in a better way when they come in the door, instead of later on when we start selling them. So how do you guys deal with new items, and what kind of data do you require, I guess, from the planning side when that product is coming in the door?
For new items, the first and primary thing that you need is forecast.
Definitely.
You need to have a forecast on what is their expected daily volume, and what time period are these SKUs expected to come in, and what type of shipment will it be. And by that I mean, are we sending it out to a retail customer, or is it going to an end consumer? Is it an e-commerce SKU, for example? Mm-hmm. And that way you can have it set up in the right type of location. You can give it a pallet location if it's going to a retail customer or a big box customer. And if it's an e-commerce, you want to make sure you have the space, first of all, because capacity issues are also big. Sometimes a warehouse can be at 95% capacity, and you don't have that kind of space. So knowing that, right, so there is that fine line where you're not having too much empty space also, but you're not like at the max either. Mm-hmm. So making sure you create that space for the items in the right space. And the next thing you need is cubic dimensions, right? What's going to be the length, width, height of this item? Are they going to be heavy items? So you need to know that kind of information, because slotting also looks at cubic utilization. So making sure it's fitting in the right location and you have that kind of spots available again. Those are some bare basic things that you need from planning, or you want to make sure your data analyst or whoever works on inputting the cubic dimensions has it updated prior to them entering the system or the orders being placed. So those are some proactive approaches that you can do for new items, I think.
Definitely. I think the key is that you want that information before the product gets inside the building, right? So you can be prepared, and there's no delay in continuing your throughput in terms of your inbound receipt and put away. So before we wrap up here, I want to ask you, what is one? So we're talking about being younger professionals, right? So what is one tip that you would give to current students who are interested in getting into supply chain, how they can break into that career and get the most out of it?
Well, I would just say, don't be scared to ask questions ever. Reach out to professionals in the industry, anyone you can get your hands on, basically.
Yeah.
And reach out to us. Kevin, you're a great resource for anyone who wants to know for sure.
I'm available.
I am
totally
available. Yeah, and same here. I mean, connect with the people on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn with my name, Shreya Jain. And just, I think first and foremost, just reaching out to people and learning about what they do. Okay. And apart from the people side and the networking piece, which is definitely not overstated. It's real. I mean, talking to people gets you more feedback than a book can in some ways.
Yeah.
But having said that, there are these certifications that you can study: CLTD, CSCP, CPIM, and you can do graduate certification courses with some universities. If you want to take the education route, that is great, because you have professors within the industry with wealth of knowledge, and they consult with different companies that hire them for their knowledge. So, doing research under them is another great way to see what your interests are. And then you can be hired for the research that you did. Because, like I said, the whole technology and innovation piece in the industry is also great. So there's always opportunities to improve, and they're looking for people to bridge that talent gap, which I hear is getting bigger in the industry.
Definitely.
So I think just keep trying and reach out to people and continue learning. There's a lot of resources, university resources, certification resources, LinkedIn, all great resources. Lots of information available online for them to get started.
Definitely. So, Shreya, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us. If people want to get in touch to you, maybe in touch with you, maybe some of those students want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
I would say just connect with me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn ID is, so you can do www.linkedin.com/Shreya J. That's SHREYAJ. So that's one way. If you can find me there, and I think that would be a great way, and then I can exchange emails and phone number if they need more information.
Okay,
but that would be a great starting place.
Okay, yeah, and we'll definitely post that on the blog as well at thenewwarehouse.com. So Shreya, thanks for being a guest on the New Warehouse Podcast.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.